Welcome to this latest video from the North East of England Business Network, which is a group on LinkedIn. Now joining me on this video is Carl Pemberton from Active Chartered Financial Planning, Nikki Jolly from HR Today, and Sarat Petty-Redler, who is the Chief Executive of the software firm Hedgehog Labs, which is in Newcastle, Hedgehog Lab. And today we're going to talk about new culture in offices post-pandemic. We're going to start with Sarat. Sarat, tell us about how your office culture is working. I believe you're working from home. Tell us the background.
Well, currently I'm speaking from my house, Graham, and I think for the foreseeable future, at least minimum the next 6 months, I think we'll all be working from home and working from our studies really, our houses.
And how many people have you got working from home?
So at this moment, in the UK, we've got about 50 people working from home.
My goodness. Tell me, it seems that the IT sector in particular has embraced working from home, led on working from home. Was there any point in you ever having an office if this was going to happen?
Well, actually, there's been a bit of soul searching and reflection on this because we actually spent a lot of time and effort last year shop fitting our office, and we have a great office in the center of Newcastle in one of the historic buildings. Before the pandemic, we had a fairly flexible working policy, so people could work from home, once or twice a week or whenever they needed to for flexible working. But it wasn't necessarily a fully remote culture. We were distributed, but we still had an office, and we used to use the office as a gathering place for people to work from all the time. So the default expectation was you would be in the office, but you can work remotely. Now, for the experience that we've had in the last 3 months, we've actually started to really question whether we need an office of the nature that we've got, where it sits 50 people, 60 people, and actually what is the purpose of an office? I think we do need an office, but we're really starting to question what the purpose of an office is. So I don't think we'll completely get rid of an office, but there are particular reasons why we will have an office.
We'll come back to this question as we develop the conversation. Let's go to Carl Pemberton next. Now, your product is financial planning, and it's maybe a bit drier at first execution than maybe some of the IT stuff, but nevertheless, it could be equally easy for you to have everyone work from home. What decision have you taken on your office?
Yeah, we've sort of adapted as this last month or two has gone by, and we've gone from very small numbers and on a rota basis to actually this last Monday just gone, we've actually moved to more of a bubble model, and we're implementing that on quite a strict basis, whereby we're allowing up to about 9 people per day into the office. We're quite blessed in that we have the space to allow people to do that quite safely and still operate and be productive. But we're doing that so that, God forbid, anybody does come into contact with anybody with COVID or shows any symptoms, then not the entire workforce has to physically self-isolate for that 2 weeks, and we have to close again. So we are keeping those bubbles completely separate.
Nikki, you run a smaller business than the others. What have you decided to do with your office?
Okay, so I'm working from home because it's easy for me to continue to do that. My core team of 3, so we've got 2 furloughed at the moment, basically due to the work that we're working on. And then we've got 3 in the office, and then another lady's working from home. So the team went back as of Monday this week. So they've been in the office this week, and we've seen an uplift in their morale and everything. It's been great.
Okay, and then I'll throw my 2 penneth worth in. I run a creative and a business where we're hands-on and lots of ideas exchange regularly, and I found working from home as a team, individuals did very well and they did their very best, but there was a slowdown in the velocity of thought, and I wonder if Sarat maybe could experience this, because there's a lot of maybe commonality on creativity. I found that if we're in the office together, if I have an idea and I talk to my mate Jamie about it, and he discusses it with his mate Rosie, and Rosie says, that's great, okay, we'll phone the client. That happens very quickly. You're working from home, someone is on the line, or I'll call them later, and the pace of the idea slows down. The opposite is also true. If you have an idea, you mention it to your mate Jamie, and your mate Jamie says, that's terrible, you revisit it, that is terrible, that's great. The idea is killed, no time is wasted. The velocity of thought has increased, and that, for me, has made my business improve straight away. Now, Sarah, I know obviously you're dealing with new ideas and new thoughts with the kind of IT software you write. What's your view on the velocity of thought?
Yeah, I mean, I do agree to a certain extent. I think it's been particularly around things where there's creative exercise. So one of the things that we do in our business, because we design and build software products, is one of the typical things that we do is a workshop where everybody gets around a whiteboard. And you just draw, you're drawing concepts, you're drawing flowcharts, you're drawing ideas, and it's a very physical thing. You're using markers, you're using, post-it notes. I mean, if you look at any tech company's website, you'll see the, stereotypical glass wall with post-it notes all over it. So it's a very physical collaborative exercise. So, I do think people miss it. What I didn't want to set the stage as to say that there's a universal acceptance to working from home from everybody in the team. I think there's a predominant preference for it, but I do agree that I think there is certainly the velocity of creativity is definitely impacted. However, we don't think it's been impacted to a level where it prevents us as a business to perform. Because we've always been a remote distributed team, because a lot of our clients are not based in the Northeast. We work with clients in America, in Europe, in Asia. It's quite easy for us. The Zoom thing or the video conferencing thing is very natural for us. The other point I wanted to add about morale, which Nikki mentioned, is a very interesting point. While we had a lot of flexible working from home before, we've not had to almost enforce people working from home, which is kind of what we're doing right now. And certainly in very, small cases, we've seen a real dip in morale and challenges around people's mental health and how they feel about every day getting up from their bed, going to the desk and coming back to, going back to their bed. So I think there are absolutely challenges. I don't think there's a clean-cut version of this where it's, it's either working from home is best or going to the office is best. And that's where we're reevaluating what our office is for later on in the year.
Thank you very much indeed, sir. I'm going to round up with Carl and Nikki. A couple of quick points. We've only got a couple of moments left on this issue of morale and bringing people back. Carl first.
Yeah, I agree with what's been said and your point there, Graham. It's a fine line, isn't it? And it's a double-edged sword in terms of bringing people back. And our decision to do so was done so based on morale and productivity. They were the main drivers in actually getting people back into the office, obviously in a safe environment to do so. I think if those factors weren't a challenge, we could have, again, like Sarat, actually carried on working remotely from home. And I do think that it certainly, they go hand in hand, don't they? Because if you've got great morale, you do tend to get improved productivity. And if you can do that in a safe environment, then, hopefully that helps businesses make those steps forward to survive and then thrive in the months that are ahead of us.
And final word to Nikki on this.
Yeah, don't get me wrong, my team have worked tremendously at home, but they've virtually burnt themselves out. They've worked really hard, but it's difficult to switch off. And the service we offer is very much about having a team approach, team support. So if one's not available, the other can. That's been very draining and exhausting for the team. So I do think moving forward, there's probably a new approach where we look at if there's a certain project you're working on and you need to focus, you could work from home. But certainly from my sector and the service that we offer, working together as a team has been a remarkable change in the last 3 days already, just seeing them together. So I think each industry and each sector needs to look at what's best for them.
Carl, Sarat, Nikki, thank you for joining me.